everyone, and welcome to BAM! That's Boris and Matt. Here we are going to be talking about sports. I'm Boris, and as always, I am joined by Matt.
Bonjour, little sports chat. It's been a while, Boris. Excited to talk some football, maybe some Toronto Blue Jays signing the polar bear, Pete Alonso. Couple items on the sports pike this week. We're glad to chat with y'all about them. I do feel we would be remiss if we forgot to mention the passing of the great Bob Uecker, legend in sports, obviously a baseball announcer, former player, and the voice of WrestleMania's 3 and 4 in many ways. Rest in peace to one of the greats, man.
Yeah, that kind of came as a surprise earlier today, but yes, rest in peace. Man, it's been a hot minute since we've talked about sports. Really excited to do that. But before we do that, Matt, how's everything going?
Good, man. Can't complain. It's snowing a little bit in Toronto, so it always completely shuts the city down anytime there's a single snowflake on the ground. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, life is good, man. Financially doing all right. Trying to get some work, trying to get some bitches and money. You know how it is. How's by you, Boris?
Everything's going really well. Hopefully, in a week's time, I will be cleared by my surgeon. Right? Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome, man. Atta boy, making that progress. I'm proud
Making
of you.
that John Cena 2007? Was it 2007?
Just full of human growth hormone and piss and vinegar. I love it.
Exactly. All right, Matt, we have so much to chat about. Where should we start?
Quickly, let's talk about the Blue Jays and their, perhaps you would say, failure to improve the team so far in this offseason. We're a Toronto-based podcast. Let's touch on the Blue Jays and then go to the NFL, the real main event of the weekend. But yeah, so the Blue Jays have missed out on some big names this year. How do you feel about where the Blue Jays' winter is at this moment?
Honestly, I think that it's just becoming harder and harder for Blue Jays to attract talent at free agency. That's at the end of the day, that's what I think. Look, we're throwing money. We have resources. We have one of the highest payrolls in the league. This isn't a matter of our management not being. Look, they're pretty useless, and I've defended them. Having said that, they're at a point now where I think it's similar to the Raptors, where it's just hard for us to attract anyone for some reason. It's crazy at this point. And I feel for them, right? Because it's to sign anyone, we have to go just above and beyond money-wise. And that's why we're always contenders to sign people. But you know what? Boris and other agents are using that as a chipping, as a ploy to get their people more money.
Yes, a bargaining chip. Yeah, I know what you mean. Not unlike me in high school, Boris. Lots of supply, but the demand isn't exactly there. You know what I mean? But no, okay. So the Jays, one of the Jays' biggest problems, an underrated issue with the Jays attracting free agents, I feel like, is they don't have their young core locked up. Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero have yet to sign the big extensions. So if you are a Pete Alonso, if you are a Shohei Ohtani, if you are one of these big name free agents, what if you sign with Toronto for 8 to 10 years and then in 3 years we're looking at a full ass rebuild? You know what I mean? Like nobody really wants to sign up for that. The rumors that were in on Pete Alonso, who is, if you're unfamiliar, a hard-hitting home run swinging first baseman, we already have one of those. His name is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's probably the best first baseman in all of baseball, was last year anyway. So I guess you could always DH Alonso. You could always move Vladdy back to third, which was the position that he was apparently going to play. But yeah, to me, the whole thing's weird. The Jays need to get somebody, but the fact that this is the one that they might actually get, Pete Alonso, who's a little bit redundant on our team, kind of speaks to what you were saying, Boris, which is that we're really having trouble attracting free agents to this team.
Yep, it really is, right? It's the unfortunate part, but yeah, it really does suck at this point, and the future is really uncertain for the Jays, especially as and look, the optics. It just reminds me of 2004 with Nomar Garcia Pera and the Red Sox. It's like, why are we shopping for a first baseman? Why are we even linked to a first baseman when we have a first baseman already? And this first baseman is on a 1 year contract, and this first baseman is our star, and this first baseman, is going into negotiations. Like the optics of that are really shady.
Scary almost, because you could look at it like we're signing Pete Alonso as the Vlad replacement, which I don't know. That gets back to my point of I don't know why Pete Alonso would sign here for a rebuild. You know what I mean? Like if they do sign a Pete Alonso or somebody like that, we need to shore up Vladdy and Bo Bichette. Less so Bo. You could probably trade Bo and get a good haul for him still. Anyway, yeah, it's weird times, man. I'm gonna be heartbroken if and when Vladdy's wearing that Dodgers uniform or a Mets uniform or God forbid a Yankees uniform.
Exactly, but it's Bichette. Look, one of either Bichette or Vladdy are gonna stay. I think it'll be Vladdy. I think that's the person you have to market around. If they both leave, we are fucked.
If they both leave, that Rogers Center is going to be cavernous for a couple years. They're going to struggle with attendance. They already kind of are. We said this a couple times last year, but the biggest issue with the Jays is that the Orioles completely usurped them 5 years ahead of schedule. The Jays were supposed to be that hot young team in the AL East with all the studs, good looking squad, Kiermaier and George Springer, and all those guys are retired or 1 foot out the door of the MLB. And the Orioles have passed us. And now we're kind of that team in limbo. We're kind of that team in between. We're not young. We're not old. We can't hit. We can't pitch. What are the Blue Jays? So there's still a lot of talent there. There's still a lot of talent on the roster. You would hope that they can figure it out. But this is a do or die season. 2025 will be for Toronto.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's do or die for management as well. I think that this is the final stand for the current management that we have of Shatkins.
Yes, Shatkins, Shapiro, and Atkins, aka lovingly or hatefully known in the city as Shatkins. And yeah, man, they've been shatting pretty hard this offseason, it seems.
Yeah, it's been hard. It just sucks because it seems like every team around us is improving, but yet somehow your World Series champions are improving more and more.
Yes, your Los Angeles Dodgers, Boris, your boys. Yeah, man, Ohtani had an amazing year. They're looking very, very nice again. They're just continuing to get good, get better.
I always told you Ohtani was the man. I always knew. I always told you Ohtani was.
yeah, never doubted him.
Never doubted
for
the
a
man.
second. That's funny, yeah.
Here's the thing,
noted Los Angeles Angels hater Boris. Yeah, please continue.
Here's the thing about the Dodgers. When the playoffs started, I remember having a conversation with our Kevin O'Leary, the real Kevin O'Leary, not some orange lover Kevin O'Leary, that the Dodgers will go far if Roberts doesn't step in and pull a Roberts. And overall, the only time that Roberts pulled a Roberts was in the San Diego series in the DS when they got embarrassed. After that, Roberts just kind of let his players do what his players can do.
Yes, yeah. The worst thing that Dave Roberts, Los Angeles Dodgers manager, can do is too much. He almost has to game manage, like a game managing quarterback. Like do nothing, do as little as possible, and let your resounding talent advantage be the reason that you win. And I totally agree with that, buddy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's go back to the Jays. I jumped the gun a little too much on that. What do you feel about this whole Jeff Hoffman stuff?
That's interesting. So Jeff Hoffman was poised to sign with the Orioles, failed a physical, and the Blue Jays scooped him up. So obviously it gives you a little bit of, concern, right? Like is he or is he not healthy enough to be a major league player? The last thing we need is another arm on the DL. Do you know what I mean? But like, he is a talented reliever, could start in spots if need be. He is a player that the Blue Jays need theoretically on paper. So I am cautiously optimistic.
Same. Just because you've been flagged doesn't mean that it's we didn't sign a dud. We signed someone who has arm issues. Guess what? Most
Yes.
pitchers do.
Especially nowadays when people are throwing 100 miles an hour in high school. Like, yeah, pitching arm issues are an epidemic that is not going away in baseball. So it's pretty hard to find someone who doesn't have some form of arm issue in the MLB these days. So yeah, I'm not that worried, but I mean, let's reevaluate in the summer, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes, man. We are about a month and a week or two away from pitchers and catchers going to spring training. Like, that's crazy. This offseason, it seems so short. Having said that, this offseason also coincides with my ankle injury. So time is nothing but an illusion right now. R.I.P. David Lynch.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Two big losses. Oh man, rest in peace to the great David Lynch. And yeah, as you can attest to, Boris, the healing power of the human body is underrated sometimes. So
It
let's
really
hope
is, man.
Hoffman can heal like a young Boris.
Exactly. Even who's older? Probably the same age. Let me take a quick look at this. Yeah. So, man. Baseball. It's going to be interesting. This season is going to be very, very interesting, I think. Obviously, as the season gets closer, we will give our predictions. Hopefully, these predictions are better than your NFL predictions.
well, at the top, my NFL predictions weren't so bad. My Super Bowl teams are still in there. Boy, did I whiff on the Minnesota Vikings, Boris. Although to pat myself on the back, I ended up being correct. I just got there the wrong way. But my whole thing was, I don't know if we could trust Sam Darnold, and I thought the Vikings would be bad. Now they went 13-4 or whatever it was, but boy, did they look shit in the last 2 weeks. And Sam Darnold does not look like an NFL playoff winning quarterback. So
he looks like Sam Darnold. Like that's
yes. Yeah.
However, we did predict the bullshit that is the Chicago Bears.
Yes, yeah, the Chicago Bears were overrated, overhyped, and that was a very tough division. That division does include the Minnesota Vikings, who had an unbelievable season, along with the Packers and Lions, who also both made the playoffs. There had to be an odd man out, and we correctly said it would be the Chicago Bears. We had some decent calls. We said the Jets were way overrated and weren't going to be that good. We said the Dolphins were about a 500 team, and that was exactly correct. We did love the Bills this year. They were getting a little hate, but we thought the Bills would probably contend for a Super Bowl. I believe our Super Bowl was Lions versus Ravens, if I'm not mistaken, which is still very much alive. So we didn't do too badly, but yeah, the Vikings were among my worst calls in the history of predicting sports. I thought they would be like 2-15. They were 14-3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But this year, this year was crazy when you look at some of the records up and down. Like, you look at the Commanders. Who would have thought the Commanders had have such a turnaround?
Yes, and a lot of that is Jaden Daniels, obviously. He's an incredible player. The poise he has back there. He looks like he's a 10-year veteran. Nothing rattles this kid. He was born in 2000. He's 24 years old, and he's led his team to a playoff win already. The former Washington racial slurs have some hope for the first time this century, Boris.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And then you already talked about the Dolphins. You know, here's the thing. The Dolphins and the Tony Khan Jaguars, they are lucky that they are in Florida because the Florida sports fan doesn't really get too involved. It's a very interesting market to be in, right? Like, they're very hands-off. Whatever happens, happens. If the Jaguars, and even Dolphins for that matter, were in any other city, any other state in the U.S., man, people would have pitchforks outside of that stadium.
Absolutely. And Dolphins fans have already turned on Mike McDaniel, it seems, in large part because the Dolphins really struggle to beat good teams. I think teams below 500, their record is immaculate. Teams above 500, the Dolphins are terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the pitchforks are out, but it's like you said, like in Florida, not only is there college football to worry about, but there's just so much sunshine and beaches and natural disasters to worry about. Alligators walking down the street. People don't care about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it, man. This weekend, interesting games this weekend as we go into another round of the playoffs. Matt, do you want to give some predictions?
Yeah, quickly, let's talk about the NFL playoffs. We're in the Elite Eight, the divisional round, as they say. This is going to be the best weekend of football all year. All four of these games look interesting. One of them looks like the game of the season. But we'll start with the AFC. The first game, Saturday, 4:30 Eastern. The Houston Texans with their awesome defense versus the Kansas City Chiefs, two-time defending Super Bowl champions. Chiefs looking to become the first ever team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. The Chiefs are favored by 8 points. Do the Texans have any shot in this game, Boris?
Absolutely, they do. They do. Is it a realistic shot? I don't know. But look, any given Sunday, right? And I have a weird feeling that my gut honestly thinks that the Texans are somehow going to pull it off. I don't know how, but that's what my gut says.
Well, they have a good defense. They're very well coached, and CJ Stroud is a competent at worst quarterback. The thing that's hurting the Texans is their running game isn't spectacular. Joe Mixon is okay. The Texans are missing 2 awesome receivers. Tank Dell is a stud. Stephon Diggs, one of the best receivers of the last 10 years. Both of those guys are out. So it is on Nico Collins to extend drives and to kind of be the big threat for the Houston Texans. I do think the Chiefs will win. I'm not going to go as far as to predict the Texans like you kind of just did. I think the Chiefs will win, but this will be a close game. The Chiefs are favored by 8 points. I think I would probably pick Houston against the spread. If Kansas City wins by a touchdown, that's kind of how I figure this game is going to go.
Yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of the divisional games were, or the wild card games were, I should say. Yeah, it's I honestly think a field goal is going to be the difference in this game.
Absolutely could be. And yeah, Houston does have a very arguably the best defense. The Houston's up there. Philly's up there for the best defense. You know who else has a really good defense, though, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're
Exactly.
a complete team. And I do think that, it could. I just think the talent on KC is overwhelming. The infrastructure, Andy Reid, one of the great coaches of all time. But Houston's going to hang tough. D'Amico Ryans is a great coach, too. And this will be a close game, closer than the 8 points, I think. The other AFC game, that's the main event, the championship, the WrestleMania caliber match, Baltimore versus Buffalo. This could be the Super Bowl. It would not shock anyone if the winner of this game went on to win it all. I just think Baltimore looks too good right now. Between Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson with his arm and with his legs, they have such a good defense, does Baltimore. No slouch in that area. I feel like Baltimore is kind of the team to beat right now.
That's exactly it. This is the Baltimore that people have been craving for the past, 3, 4 seasons. This is their position. This is their year. Buffalo is very beatable. They're very beatable, right? So I think that, again, this might be the game of the year, in my opinion. Really looking forward to this one. Having said that, having said that, a lot of people were giving the Broncos, a lot of credit. And look what ended up happening at that game.
That's the thing. Yeah, the Broncos are only defense. The Broncos probably have a better defense than Baltimore does. And Buffalo made them look foolish last week. Buffalo kicked their asses last week. So Buffalo's rounding into form for sure. The thing is, Baltimore's game plan here is going to obviously be to keep Josh Allen off the field, to extend drives, to run the shit out of the football. And with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry back there, I think they can easily do so. So, yeah, I expect Baltimore to run like 30 more plays than Buffalo does in this game and to squeak out a very close win. But most of the games are within like two scores or at least like a touchdown ish. This game is Baltimore favored on the road by a single point. So this is by far the closest game according to Vegas, and I think that is accurate. But I do think at the end of the day, Baltimore will win. It will require Josh Allen, Buffalo quarterback, to have the game of his life to beat this Baltimore team.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting, man. It's going to be a very good game. Very good game. The AFC games look so much better. Like, not to say that the NFC games won't be exciting, but those AFC games most likely will determine the champion for this year's Super Bowl.
Yes, and I'm predicting Houston to lose. I'm going to say it's going to be Kansas City versus Baltimore. You predicted Houston to win, so you're saying Houston versus Baltimore for the AFC title.
That's what I'm thinking.
Nice, man. So yeah, we go to the NFC now. The biggest spread of the week belongs to the Detroit Lions, who are 9.5 point favorites over the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels, who we've already talked about. I mean, Jaden is so impressive as a rookie quarterback. He's got such a great arm. People always talked about his legs coming into the league, and they kind of compared him a lot to Lamar Jackson of Baltimore, but they didn't tell us that he could throw the shit out of the ball like he can. Like, he's got an amazing deep ball. He's really precise. He's just a complete quarterback, this Jaden Daniels out of Washington.
Yep. He's so good. He's really good. He's really good. It's funny because this is the team that a lot of people thought would be here, a decade ago now? Like, this is a decade later, and they're still kind of like finally found that stud quarterback.
Yeah, this is the guy that we wanted Robert Griffin III to be.
Exactly.
He's back. And it's Washington has no reason to hang their head, but I do expect Detroit to pummel them. I think
Detroit's just so good.
Detroit is really good this year. The Lions are very good, finished 14-3 and easily could have won more games. They're really banged up. In order for Washington to win this game, they're going to need Jaden Daniels to run the ball, specifically like get 100 yards on the ground. And they're going to they're going to have to catch the Lions sleeping a little bit. And I think the Lions are too well coached, too well prepared, and they're slowly getting a lot of their injured players back. So yeah, I do feel like it's fair to say this is the biggest discrepancy. And I do expect the Lions to win pretty easily, maybe like a 41-20 kind of win, like not complete disrespect, not a complete blowout, but a decisive victory for Detroit.
Yeah. Yep, that's what I'm thinking. It's going to, how close the game's going to be, I don't think too close. But again, the Commanders, don't sleep on the Commanders in the next few years.
Absolutely. And then the Sunday afternoon game, the other NFC game, is Los Angeles Rams, they who just defeated the Minnesota Vikings, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Eagles are favored by 6 points in this game in Philadelphia. They played this season, and the Eagles stomped them out pretty good. Saquon Barkley had 255 rushing yards against the Rams this season. So there's your blueprint. The Rams have to stop Saquon on the ground, and if they can't, and last time they could not, they're going to lose again.
Yep. That's look, the Eagles, a lot of people thought the Eagles were frauds last year. They're a good team, and I think that they are going to just eat up the Rams.
Yes. So the Eagles last year, the team openly quit on their coaching staff, specifically their defensive coordinator. They signed Vic Fangio from our Dolphins, but probably Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio is arguably the best defensive coach in football right now, and he's got the Eagles looking nice. So the Eagles are always apt to self-destruct. The only team that can beat Philadelphia is Philadelphia, as the old cliche goes. But I think that shoe will drop at some point. Like, I don't think the Eagles will win the Super Bowl. At some point, they will beat themselves. So if you're a gambling man, this might be the game to roll the dice on. You know what I mean? The Rams know how to beat Philly. They just failed miserably at that task already this year. And I think they will fail again.
Yep, I think so. I think so. We will see what
So
happens.
we are, yeah. So we're both predicting Detroit versus Philly NFC title.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Now, if I were to pick an upset, I think I would go with the Rams, but that's more of a pick against the other teams. Like, I don't think the Commanders will beat the Lions. I really don't think the Texans will beat the Chiefs. I respect you putting your balls on the table there. But I do think there's a chance the Rams could beat the Eagles. I do think there is a chance just because, like I said, like the Eagles at some point are going to self-destruct. It seems like, because they always do.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? They're going to beat themselves. That's typically how it goes out in Philadelphia. In general, not just the Eagles, which is funny.
No, no, sir. Yeah, Phillies, 76ers. My God, Joel Embiid shoots
Oh my
himself in the foot.
God. That's
So, Joe, man,
that's
there,
so
yeah,
crazy.
the Eagles, the Eagles, if anything, are the most dependable Philly team, which is scary, which is a terrifying thought.
It is. It really is, man. Oh, man, Philly. Man, let's want to talk about the Sixers because that's a team that is just ready to completely implode.
Man, they thought they eradicated the cancer from that team, Ben Simmons, a couple years ago, but it turns out Ben Simmons wasn't the cancer. That cancer has spread. And Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, is still one of the 4 or 5 best basketball players alive for sure. But yeah, playoff P, Paul George, they brought in there. He didn't look very good this year. There's talk that they might maybe even trade Paul George or try to bring in Jimmy Butler, who's already been there. And he fit Philly like a glove. Jimmy Butler was very good, but he's just another aging star. If I'm a Philly fan, I really am feeling good about Tyrese Maxey. And that's it. That's the only person on that team who is worth feeling inspired for these days.
Yeah, man. It's crazy just how that team is just not good. They're just not good right now. And with Embiid gone, they're just getting routed by teams. You know, it's funny. So a lot of people give the Raptors a lot of hell for not being good. But Toronto fans are very special. They're a very special group of especially basketball fans. Let's just be honest. Toronto doesn't understand basketball. And what I'm noticing is that at the very least, Toronto, as shitty as they are with this rebuild, they're at least an entertaining team. Like, they're not getting completely blown out. They are leading top teams in the league. They're losing by such close margins, and it sucks because if they just could close out quarters, sink some of those threes, ridiculous threes that they're going for, the games would their record would be completely different, right? And this week has kind of proven because the Raptors have beaten both Golden State and the Celtics.
Yeah, exactly. The fan base is referring to it as an ethical tank job this year, and that's perfect. They're trying to win. They're just not that good, but they're putting pieces on the floor who theoretically could win basketball games one day. But yeah, the Raptors 9-13 at home. Mediocre, bad, but like somewhat respectable. On the road, the Raptors this year, 1 win, 18 losses. They're 1-18 on the road. So that's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, that's it right there, man. But again, the Raptors, such a young team, a complete rebuild. They have some pieces in there, some good vets to help with the rebuild. But yeah, shall we say, trust the process.
Yeah, indeed. It is time to trust the process. Trust that we will get a good pick. Cooper Flag from Duke looking pretty nice. What about an all white boy lineup? We're talking Flag, Dick, all the white boys coming along.
2,000 Raptors right back at you.
Little Stojakovic, little Matt Bonner, little Red Rocket coming back to town. Little Jason Capono action. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, the Raptors, like I said, at least they're entertaining. They're an entertaining team. Somehow their attendance is still very good. The Raptors, they have a very, very good fan base. Regardless of
Yes.
what I said, of whether they understand basketball or don't, doesn't matter. They support the Raptors, and they are coming out still.
Passionate, loud fan base, loud and not always fair. I
Yes.
feel like Masai Ujiri, people were calling for his head a year and a half after they won the title. It was like, give the man some grace period, like give him 3 to 5 years to rebuild the squad. And now they finally have tanked out. While we're still on basketball, we got to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, surprise of the league. Cleveland is atop the Eastern Conference by 7 games. They are 34-5 right now, 20-2 at home. So if you look at how Cleveland is constructed, that's kind of the hope for the Raptors one day. Like they do have an offensive superstar in Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell can score the basketball with absolutely everyone in the league. He's as good as any offensive player in basketball, but they are a complete team. They have a lot of depth. They have some size in the front court. They got some high draft picks, and the roster doesn't like pop out at you as this team should be 34-5. They're just a really well coached, well ran, well put together squad with one huge superstar. So that's hopefully the blueprint that the Raptors are going to follow with Cooper Flag in 5 years.
Question for you.
Hit me.
You take a look at the Cavaliers, you take a look around the league, the teams that are doing really well are, I'm not going to say unknowns, run by unknowns, but it's not the super teams that we saw in the 2000s. Matt, are we seeing the end of the super team?
Interesting. Yes, yeah. The days of let's get the 3 highest paid players in the league together on the same team and fill in the rest with schlubs, replacement level bench players, and we'll be fine. Those days are over. Look at the Phoenix Suns, look at the 76ers, look at all these teams who are built on star power. They're not doing so well anymore. But the teams that are deep throughout with one guy who in crunch time can get a basket no matter what, teams like Cleveland, teams like Oklahoma City, who are very similarly built with a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, good Canadian boy, front runner for MVP in the NBA this year. Houston's second in the West this year, 27-12. Who's their big star? I guess Jalen Green, but they don't really have that number one. I guess Şengün maybe is their true number one. But yeah, that's like a deep team with a lot of players who can score. Fred VanVleet is on the Rockets. Lots of players who can score, and they play decent enough defense when they need to.
Yep. Yeah. So I agree. I think we are seeing the end of the super team. I think GMs are noticing that, hey, by quote unquote trusting the process will be good in a few years. We don't need to blow the cap. We don't need to do anything crazy, and just for 1 or 2 good seasons.
Yeah. Well, the Mavericks are a perfect example of this because they did for a long time. They were trying to do the super team thing with Kyrie and Luka Doncic, right? And just having the star players was not nearly enough. When they got rid of Porzingis, who was the third, the big one, and they brought in guys like Isaiah Likely, guys like PJ Washington, who are gritty, power forward, like they'll do the dirty work. They don't need to score points. They'll just play a lot of defense and fill in offensively where need be. The Mavericks skyrocketed and they made the finals last year. So yeah, depth is important in sports and basketball. Who knew?
Right, right. Let's As we're talking about basketball, I also want to talk to you about the ratings. We've seen a decline in ratings, but they've stabilized a little bit after around Thanksgiving and Christmas. Do and we've heard analysts say, hey, and I think it was Barkley who even said it. Hey, why don't we start the season at Christmas? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, the unofficial start of the season is Christmas. That's
Yeah.
why they shoehorned that whole like NBA Cup into it. I think that's an excellent point. Like the playoffs will be entertaining. I don't know. The NBA has kind of educated us that the regular season doesn't really matter that much.
Yep.
10 out of 15 teams in each conference make the playoffs. There's almost no point in watching until April anyway. But I don't know. The TV rating discourse is a little played out. It's a little like it's not going to change. Ratings across the board and everything except for the NFL are going down because cords are being cut all over the place. So I don't think it's worth as much panic as other people do. Like a big talking point is there's too many threes in the NBA, and that's probably true. There are probably too many threes in the NBA, but I'll tell you this: I would much rather watch an NBA game today than an NBA game in like 1999 once Jordan had first retired. You know what I mean? Like the NBA, the on-court product has been much worse in my lifetime than it is today. That's not the only problem.
No, there's a lot of other problems, right? The super teams kind of ruined the NBA for a lot of people. When in early October who's going to win the championship or who's going to be in the finals, right?
Yeah, like the Warriors winning 73 games and then adding Kevin Durant, that hurt the league for a long time. It really did. And I love Kevin Durant. I'm a Kevin Durant guy, but inarguably, objectively, that hurt the league. Now we're at a point where you need to build a team intelligently. Depth matters, coaching matters, defense matters a little bit because everyone can score. So the only thing that sets you apart is being able to play some level of defense. So I do think we're at a better place with basketball than people realize. I think right now it's not doom and gloom.
Agreed 100%, right? And ratings is one thing. What I would be worried is when the advertising dollars go down. But Matt, the advertising dollars continue to go up and up and up. Hence, therefore, the league is healthy.
Yeah, they're safe. They're about to expand. Big rumors that Seattle and Las Vegas will be getting teams within the next couple of years. So yeah, we don't need to shed a tear for the NBA. I think they're in good shape.
Yep, agreed. All right, shall we talk about the hockey?
Quickly, let's talk about the hockey. Montreal, Boris, my team, the Canadians. They got this kid called Lane Hudson. My goodness, Lane Hudson looks like a superstar, like the next Cale Makar, like the next Quinn Hughes, that undersized offensive defenseman who just controls the play. He's played like 40 NHL games. He looks like Jaden Daniels out there. He just looks like a poised superstar.
They're a fun team to watch. I've caught some games here and there. They are a very fun team to watch. It's just figuring things out as game by game, and they're improving. And you can tell that they are in good hands right now. And I just love how everyone in Toronto is freaking out about the Canadians again.
I love it. In my life, we've only had one playoff series with Toronto. It was in the weird COVID year where Toronto was massively favored. Toronto went up 3-1. And then Carey Price, in his greatest moment, stole a series single-handedly, and the Habs beat the Leafs. So if the Habs do squeak into the playoffs this year, I almost think it would be poetic justice if the Leafs beat them. That I wouldn't even break my heart. But I'll tell you this, every Leaf fan they'd be clinching pretty tight if they had to run into the Montreal Canadiens again this year. But yeah, the NHL is in a good place right now too. So much young talent in the game. It's similar to where basketball is, except the young stars are more visible in hockey right now. I truly feel like where the Bedards are, where the Macklin Celebrinis are, the Lane Hudsons. You can watch the World Juniors and see 10 or 15 kids that are going to be NHL studs in a couple years. So there's a good amount of talent in the NHL. And within the next month or two, maybe three, Alexander Ovechkin is going to break the most important record in hockey.
Yep, exactly. Very exciting times in the NHL right now. And this season's been, again, similar to the NBA. I kind of feel like these sports are making a comeback. Like, they're more entertaining to watch.
Definitely. Hockey really fixed their game in the last 10 to 20 years. Specifically going back to the lockout, the NHL was rough to watch. And the complaints that you hear about basketball right now, you heard a lot about hockey. The game's boring, it's this and that. Hockey games aren't boring anymore, and hockey is the one sport that really ramps up in the playoffs too. So yeah, I'm excited to be a Montreal Canadiens fan. They're knocking on the door of the playoffs. They're knocking, Boris. They're almost there. Probably won't make the playoffs this year, but even just being competitive in the mix, as the fans say, is all you could hope for.
Yep, exactly. Any surprises in the NHL for you outside of the
The
Canadians?
Rangers.
The Rangers?
Yeah, the Canadians are a surprise. They're ahead of schedule. The Rangers have really taken an aggressive downturn. The Rangers won the President's Trophy last year, I believe, as the single best team in the league in the regular season. They have a ton of talent up and down the lineup. Arguably the single best goaltender alive, Igor Shesterkin, is currently employed by the New York Rangers, and the Rangers sit in, what are they, like 13th place in the Eastern Conference, well out of the playoffs. In hockey, the standings are a log jam. So the Rangers can go on a win streak of 5 to 6 games and be healthy again. But they have really been the biggest disappointment and the biggest surprise, I think, this year. Are the Rangers stumbling and falling a little bit?
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been crazy to see that. But again, right? Like you look at the standings, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it's a lot of the same that we've seen. And I know I just said that how entertaining hockey's been, but the standings, and if you take a look at like standings today, if the playoffs were to start today, it's very much a lot of the same teams that we're seeing.
Yeah, the Atlantic Division hasn't changed for 10 years, it seems. It's Tampa, Florida, Toronto, Boston in some order. And then, the Capitals are good again. They're a little bit of a surprise. Because you'd think that with Alexander Ovechkin being 38, closing in on Gretzky, you thought that they would be more focused on getting him to pass Gretzky's record of goals than they would be to win hockey games. But no, the Capitals are really good. The Capitals have the best coach, the best young coach, Spencer Carberry. He seems to be a shoo-in for Coach of the Year right now. And he's really got the Capitals playing an entertaining, responsible brand of hockey. I do feel bad for our brothers across the river, across the street in Buffalo. Oh my goodness, the Sabres cannot get out of their own way.
Right? It's crazy. And the Sabres is one of the teams that they're kind of like the Chicago Bears of the NHL, where everyone was giving them a lot of credit. And they're not a bad team, but man, they just have a lot of bad luck.
Lots of bad luck. And yeah, it's hard to move up the standings in hockey when you can get a point for losing a game, a standings point. And the NHL will never change that, at least not while Gary Bettman's alive. They love the loser point. They love the perhaps artificially inflated playoff races. But while it's interesting to have 20 teams who could qualify, it's just so hard to actually move up in the standings. I find it to be frustrating. I don't know many hockey fans who like it, but the owners seem to like it, and that is all that matters.
Exactly. That's not the end of the day. That's all that matters, right?
Dog. Yeah, dog. But yeah, that's kind of the lay of the land in sports right now. It's very, very exciting to be a Montreal Canadiens fan for the first time in a long time. Your Kings look all right, although if the playoffs started today, as you were saying just now, the Kings would run into the Oilers yet again for the fourth straight year, and the Oilers would just beat them because the Oilers just have their number.
Yep. Exactly, man. That was a fun little catch-up session. We're gonna be doing this regularly yet again. Now that now the things are a little more stable on both of our sides, I think that we're gonna continue the sports chat, especially as we head into the Super Bowl and the MLB season. Oh, it's always fun to be a sports fan, my friend.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a little bit of a downtime, but we're hitting our stride again soon. And yeah, hopefully, I'm thinking Thursday, Friday sports pod. Maybe not every single week, but every couple weeks. Hopefully, every single week we can try to get something out there. But yeah, nice Thursday, Friday sports pod. I like this. The BAM vibes. It's good times to shoot the shit with you, big homie.
A+Productions.com is a place to get all of your A+ Productions content, whether it be wrestling, whether it be sports or entertainment. A Plus Productions is the place if you want to chat. We talk about everything, mainly wrestling, but there is entertainment chat, there is sports chat. Go to facebook.com and search for the A Plus Productions Facebook group. Always a fun time there. Matt, always a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for listening. Whether this is the first episode or the 100th episode that you're listening to, we thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us. Matt, any final words?
Just thank you very much for all your support out there. And this was a good chat, Boris. We'll try to get more different sports on the docket as well. I got a couple friends out in Australia. Could talk some Aussie rules, perhaps.
AFL.
You would. We have so many English friends. We could talk some EPL. Get maybe Dan the Mouth Lavransky in to talk some F1. And the world is our oyster here, Boris. So thank you very much to everyone for listening. And once more, rest in peace, Bob Uecker. Just a bit outside.